In a luxury market, a confident millionaire tries to impress until his cards are declined in front of everyone. As the gazes turn into judgments, a humble girl steps out of the line and offers her only coins. The silent yet powerful gesture breaks the man's pride and brings forth tears he never thought he would shed. From that moment on, a journey of change begins, one that no amount of money could ever buy. Chapter 1: The Encounter. Ethan Reynolds adjusted his Rolex watch as he entered Bellamy's, the most exclusive grocery store in Manhattan's Upper East Side. At 35, he had everything society valued: a penthouse overlooking Central Park, a portfolio of successful business ventures, and the admiration of New York's elite. Today, he was escorting Vanessa, his new girlfriend, a model 15 years his junior, on what he considered a simple yet effective display of his status. "Choose anything you like," Ethan said, guiding Vanessa through aisles of imported delicacies with the practiced confidence of someone who had never heard the word budget. The 1982 Bordeaux would pair wonderfully with that camembert. Vanessa's eyes widened with each item he casually tossed into their cart. Truffles from Italy, saffron from Spain, caviar from the Caspian Sea. Ethan smiled at her reaction. It was precisely what he had orchestrated. He had mastered the art of impressing women, just as he had mastered the market fluctuations that built his fortune. "You have exquisite taste," the store manager commented, appearing at Ethan's elbow with deference typically reserved for celebrities. "We just received a shipment of limited edition chocolate from an obscure Swiss chocolatier. Only 5 boxes made it to the United States." "We'll take 2, Ethan replied without hesitation, savoring the impressed glances from nearby shoppers. In truth, he hardly cared for chocolate, but the exclusivity was irresistible. As they approached the checkout, their cart resembled a small treasury of gourmet excess. The cashier, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, began scanning each item with practiced efficiency. Ethan pulled out his platinum card with a flourish that had become second nature. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds, but your card has been declined," the cashier said quietly after the terminal beeped disapprovingly. Ethan blinked, certain he had misheard. "That's impossible. Try again." The cashier obliged, but the result remained unchanged. "Perhaps another card?" Ethan's confident smile faltered as he produced his second card, then his third. Each attempt ended with the same humiliating beep. The line behind him grew, and so did the whispers. He felt heat rise to his face, not from embarrassment but from indignation. How dare his financial institution create such a scene? "There must be some mistake," he insisted, voice rising. "I'll have someone's job for this. Call your manager." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably beside him, her gaze now fixed on her designer shoes. The murmurs behind them transformed into poorly concealed chuckles. A woman in line commented loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Guess some people's lifestyles are just smoke and mirrors." The manager approached, his earlier deference replaced by cautious professionalism. "Perhaps we can set these items aside while you contact your bank, Mr. Reynolds." Ethan felt his carefully constructed image crumbling. The store, his stage just moments ago, had become his scaffold. He was about to demand the manager's name when a small voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me." The crowd parted slightly to reveal a girl, no more than 9 years old, standing beside a woman in a cleaner's uniform who was clearly her mother. The girl approached Ethan with a composure that belied her age. "I think you might need this more than I do right now," she said, extending a small hand that contained a collection of coins and crumpled dollar bills, clearly savings accumulated over time. "It's okay. Everyone needs help sometimes." The sincerity in her voice silenced the entire checkout area. There was no pity in her offer, only genuine kindness, something Ethan encountered so rarely that he hardly recognized it. The girl's mother looked mortified. "Lily, honey, please come back here," she whispered urgently. "I'm so sorry, sir. She doesn't understand—" "No, it's fine," Ethan interrupted, finding his voice strange in his ears. He knelt to the girl's level, suddenly aware of how small she was, how innocent her gesture. "What's your name?" "Lily Simmons," she replied without hesitation. "Well, Lily Simmons, that's the kindest offer anyone has made me in a very long time," he said, surprised by his own honesty. "But I couldn't take your money." "You've worked hard for it, haven't you?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I've been saving for 6 months. But my mom always says that helping others is more important than things. Ethan glanced up at the mother, who stood with quiet dignity despite her obvious embarrassment. There was something in her eyes, not judgment but a gentle compassion that struck him more profoundly than the whispers and stares around them. "Your mom is very wise," Ethan said, standing up. He turned to the cashier. "Cancel everything except—" His eyes scanned the items and landed on the Swiss chocolate. That box of chocolates. The manager, sensing an opportunity to salvage the situation, quickly facilitated the much smaller transaction. Ethan handed his corporate card to the cashier, the one linked to his company's account, and was relieved when it was approved without issue. He took the chocolate and presented it to Lily. "I'd like you to have this as thanks for reminding me what's really important," he said. Lily's eyes widened. "But it's so fancy. And you deserve something special," Ethan replied. He nodded respectfully to Lily's mother, then turned to find Vanessa had disappeared. She had slipped away during the commotion, unwilling to be associated with his public humiliation. As Ethan left Bellamy's alone, his step lacked its earlier confidence. The afternoon sun seemed harsher, the city noise more grating. He loosened his tie, feeling as though it had been strangling him all day. His phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, but for once, he ignored them. Instead, his mind kept returning to the girl's simple gesture and the mother's dignified presence. In all his years of business dealings and social climbing, he couldn't recall encountering such genuine kindness without an agenda. By the time he reached his penthouse, the glossy interior that usually filled him with satisfaction felt hollow. He poured himself a whiskey and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. New York sprawled before him, a maze of ambition and struggle. Somewhere out there was a little girl who had offered her precious savings to a stranger in need, expecting nothing in return. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Reynolds Enterprises earlier than usual. His executive assistant, Grace Mitchell, did a double-take when she saw him. "You're here at 8?" she asked, checking her watch to confirm. "And you're wearing the same suit as yesterday. Is everything all right?" Ethan had known Grace for over a decade. She had started as a receptionist and risen through competence and integrity to become his most trusted employee. If anyone would understand his current state of mind, it would be her. "Grace, have I become a terrible person?" he asked abruptly. Grace set down her coffee, giving him her full attention. "What happened?" Ethan recounted the previous day's events, surprised at how vivid the memory remained. "All my cards were declined. Just a bank error, they fixed it this morning. But that's not what's bothering me. It's the girl, Lily. She offered me her savings, Grace, her savings." "That's remarkable," Grace said softly. "Children can have such pure hearts." "I can't stop thinking about it," Ethan admitted. "About her and her mother. They had so little, yet they were willing to give. And He gestured vaguely at his office with its expensive artwork and designer furniture. "I've spent years accumulating things and influence, but what have I actually given?" Grace studied him with the frankness that had made her invaluable to him. "Is this a temporary crisis of conscience or something more?" "I need to find them," Ethan said, ignoring her question. "The girl and her mother. I need to thank them properly. Do you have their names?" Grace asked, already reaching for her tablet. "Lily Simmons. The mother works as a cleaner, but I don't know where." Grace nodded. "I'll see what I can find." "But Ethan," she paused, "what exactly are you hoping to accomplish?" Ethan looked out his office window at the city below, bustling with lives intersecting in ways he'd never considered before. "I'm not sure," he admitted, "but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I need to do something that matters." Chapter 2. The Search. It took Grace 3 days to find Sarah Simmons. In that time, Ethan found himself unusually distracted during meetings, his mind wandering to the encounter at Bellamy's. Victor Harmon, his business partner of 7 years, noticed the change immediately. "You've been off since Monday," Victor remarked as they reviewed quarterly projections in Ethan's office. "The Peterson deal needs your full attention. They're wavering." "I'm aware," Ethan replied, forcing himself to focus on the spreadsheets before him. The Peterson deal represented a potential $30 million acquisition, the kind of transaction that once consumed his every waking thought. Now it seemed strangely inconsequential. Is it Vanessa? Victor pressed. I heard she's been seen with the Thompson heir. These model types, they're transactional. Find another. Ethan shook his head. He hadn't given Vanessa a second thought since she'd abandoned him at the grocery store. It's not that. Before Victor could inquire further, Grace appeared at the door. A moment, Mr. Reynolds? Grateful for the interruption, Ethan excused himself. Grace led him to her desk and handed him a neatly prepared folder. Sarah Simmons, she said quietly. She works for Manhattan Elite Cleaning Services. They handle several corporate buildings downtown, including Meridian Tower on 47th. Her shift ends at 4 today. Ethan accepted the folder, surprised at the relief he felt. How did you... I have my methods, Grace said with a small smile. There's more. Ms. Simmons is a single mother. Her husband, Michael Simmons, was a firefighter who fell during a rescue operation at an elementary school 3 years ago. The daughter, Lily, attends public school 183 on East 66th Street. The information landed heavily on Ethan. A firefighter, he repeated, thinking of the quiet dignity he had observed in the mother. Thank you, Grace. I'll handle it from here. Ethan, Grace said, using his first name as she only did in rare moments of candor. Whatever you're planning, remember that these people have their pride. At 4:15 that afternoon, Ethan waited outside Meridian Tower, feeling conspicuously out of place in his tailored suit amid the rush of office workers heading home. He spotted Sarah Simmons immediately as she exited the service entrance. Her uniform exchanged for simple jeans and a worn jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She walked with purpose, checking her watch repeatedly. Ms. Simmons, Ethan called, approaching her. Sarah Simmons. She turned, confusion crossing her features before recognition dawned. You're the man from Bellamy's. Ethan Reynolds, he introduced himself, extending a hand. She hesitated before accepting it. Mr. Reynolds, this is unexpected. I wanted to thank you and your daughter properly, Ethan said, suddenly aware that he hadn't fully planned what to say. What Lily did, it affected me deeply. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Lily has always had a big heart, but I'm afraid we can't accept anything from you if that's why you're here. I understand, Ethan said quickly, but perhaps I could buy you coffee. Just to talk? Sarah checked her watch again. I need to pick up Lily from her after-school program by 5. I could drive you, Ethan offered, then saw her apprehension. Or meet you there if that's more comfortable. Sarah studied him for a long moment, as if assessing his intentions. There's a small cafe near her school. Wilson's on 64th. I can meet you there at 5:15. The cafe was nothing like Ethan's usual haunts, a modest neighborhood establishment with mismatched furniture and handwritten menus. He arrived early and claimed a corner table, feeling the curious glances from the barista who clearly didn't often see men in $3,000 suits in her establishment. Sarah's arrived with Lily in tow at precisely 5:15. The girl's face lit up with recognition. It's the chocolate man, she exclaimed, bounding over to Ethan's table with the uninhibited enthusiasm of childhood. Mom said we were meeting a friend, but she didn't say it was you. I didn't know if you'd remember me. Ethan smiled, surprised at how pleased he felt at her reaction. Did you fix your money problem? Lily asked innocently, sliding into the chair opposite him. Sarah quickly intervened. Lily, that's not polite. It's all right, Ethan assured her. Yes, Lily, it was just a mistake with the bank. Everything's fixed now. He gestured for Sarah to join them. I took the liberty of ordering some hot chocolate and cookies. I hope that's okay. As they settled in, Ethan found himself sharing more than he had intended. He told them about growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Queens, about putting himself through business school, about the early days of his company, when he worked 18-hour days just to stay afloat. What made you go to that fancy grocery store? Lily asked, dunking a cookie in her hot chocolate. The question was disarmingly direct. I suppose I wanted to impress someone, Ethan admitted. But it wasn't really about the groceries. It was about showing off. Sarah nodded, understanding in her eyes. We all want to be valued. What happened wasn't your fault, Ethan said, meeting her gaze. The way people looked at me, it made me realize how shallow my life had become. All the trappings of success without any real purpose. People find different paths to meaning, Sarah replied. After Michael, after we lost my husband, I had to redefine what mattered. For me, it's making sure Lily has opportunities. Lily, who had been quietly absorbing the adult conversation, suddenly piped up. I'm going to be a doctor, so I can help people who can't pay. The simple declaration touched something in Ethan. That's a wonderful goal. Her teachers say she has the aptitude, Sarah added, pride evident in her voice. She's already reading at a high school level, but she trailed off, a shadow crossing her face. The good schools are expensive, Ethan completed her thought. Sarah nodded. I'm putting away what I can, but college seems like a mountain in the distance. A silence fell over the table, broken only by the ambient cafe noises. Ethan looked at Lily, now contentedly drawing on a napkin, and found himself making a decision that would alter the course of all their lives. I'd like to help, he said finally. Sarah stiffened. Mr. Reynolds, please hear me out, Ethan continued. Not as charity, but as an investment in Lily's future. Scholarship of sorts. We don't need saving, Sarah said firmly. I'm not offering to save you, Ethan clarified. I'm offering an opportunity, the kind I had when a professor took interest in me during college and introduced me to my first investors. Sarah's expression remained guarded. And what would you expect in return? The question cut through Ethan's prepared speech. She wasn't asking about terms or conditions. She was asking about his motives. He realized that in her world, offers that seemed too good to be true usually were. Nothing from Lily, he answered honestly. For her, it's unconditional support for her education. From you, he paused, considering. Actually, there might be something. My company is expanding its community outreach division. We need people who understand the real challenges families face. Your perspective would be valuable. Sarah's eyebrows rose. Are you offering me a job? If you're interested, Ethan said. Your background check for the cleaning service was impeccable, and you clearly have exceptional judgment and integrity. The position would offer better hours, benefits, and advancement opportunities. You had me investigated? Sarah asked, her voice cooling. Standard procedure before approaching you, Ethan admitted. I wanted to make sure my help would actually be helpful. Sarah seemed to be weighing multiple considerations. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Reynolds, but I'd need to know more before making any decisions that affect Lily's future. Of course, Ethan said. Take all the time you need, and please call me Ethan. As they prepared to leave, Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. If I become a doctor because of your help, I'll treat you for free when you're old, she promised solemnly. Ethan laughed, genuinely for what felt like the first time in years. That's a deal, Dr. Simmons. Walking back to his car, Ethan realized the crushing weight that had sat on his chest since the Bellamy's incident had lifted somewhat. The empty feeling that had haunted his penthouse views and board meetings seemed less consuming. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he had engaged with people who saw him, not his wealth or his influence, but him. His phone buzzed with a text from Victor. Peterson's lawyers sending revised terms. Need your sign-off tonight. Drinks at the club at 8. Ethan stared at the message, feeling the tug of his old life. Then he typed a reply that would have been unthinkable a week ago. Can't tonight. Send the documents to my email. I'll review them from home. He had more important matters to consider. Chapter 3. New Beginnings. 1 month later, the Westbrook Academy's admissions office buzzed with unusual energy. The prestigious private school on Manhattan's Upper West Side rarely conducted interviews outside their standard enrollment period. But headmistress Eleanor Parker had made an exception after receiving a personal call from Ethan Reynolds, whose family foundation had recently funded the school's new science wing. Remember, Sarah whispered to Lily as they sat in the ornate waiting area, just be yourself. That's all that matters. Lily nodded, her legs swinging nervously beneath her new dress. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of changes. Sarah had accepted the position at Reynolds Enterprises as a community outreach coordinator. They had moved from their cramped one-bedroom apartment in Queens to a modest but comfortable two-bedroom in a safer neighborhood. And now this, an interview at one of New York's most exclusive schools. Miss Simmons. The assistant appeared with a clipboard. Headmistress Parker will see you and Lily now. They followed her down hallways, adorned with student artwork and alumni achievements. Lily's eyes widened at the gleaming trophy cases, and wall-sized murals depicting scenes from literature and history. Eleanor Parker was not what Sarah had expected. Instead of the stern disciplinarian she had imagined, the headmistress was a warm-eyed woman in her 50s who immediately came around her desk to greet them. "Lily Simmons," she said, kneeling slightly to meet the girl at eye level. "I'm very pleased to meet you." "Thank you for having us, ma'am," Lily replied carefully, extending her hand as Sarah had practiced with her. Such lovely manners. Eleanor smiled, accepting the handshake. "Please, both of you, make yourselves comfortable. This isn't an interrogation, I just want us to get to know each other a bit." The interview progressed naturally, with Eleanor asking thoughtful questions about Lily's interests, her favorite subjects, and her experiences at her current school. Sarah noticed that the headmistress was genuinely listening to Lily's answers, not just evaluating them against some predetermined criteria. "Your test scores are quite remarkable," Eleanor noted, reviewing a folder on her desk. "Particularly in reading comprehension and science. Your current teacher mentions you've been reading medical encyclopedias during free reading time." Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I like knowing how things work inside people. Last week I learned about the lymphatic system." "Impressive," Eleanor smiled. "And may I ask why medicine interests you so much?" Lily glanced at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. "When I was 7, a boy in my class got really sick. The doctors fixed him, but his parents cried a lot about money afterward. I want to be a doctor who helps people who don't have enough money." The simple, heartfelt answer hung in the air. Eleanor's expression softened further as she made a note in her file. "That's a wonderful aspiration, Lily." She turned to Sarah. "Miss Simmons, would you mind if Lily took a brief assessment with one of our teachers while you and I chat? It's standard procedure." Once Lily had been escorted to another room by a kind-faced teacher, Eleanor's demeanor shifted subtly. "Mr. Reynolds has spoken very highly of both you and your daughter," she began. "We've only known him a short time," Sarah replied carefully. "Yet he's chosen to sponsor Lily's education completely. That's quite extraordinary." Eleanor studied Sarah. "May I ask the nature of your relationship?" Sarah felt her defenses rise. "Mr. Reynolds is my employer and Lily's educational sponsor. Nothing more?" Eleanor nodded, seemingly satisfied. "I apologize for the personal question, but I need to understand the dynamics at play. Westbrook isn't just an educational institution, it's a community. And Lily would be entering that community under unusual circumstances." "You mean as a scholarship student?" Sarah said directly. "As a mid-year transfer with a private sponsor," Eleanor clarified. "That creates a unique situation. I want to ensure Lily has the support she needs to thrive here." Sarah appreciated the honesty. "My daughter is adaptable and resilient, but she's also sensitive. This would be a significant change." "Indeed," Eleanor agreed. "Our students come predominantly from privileged backgrounds. While we strive to create an inclusive environment, there are social realities we can't completely shield children from." "You're concerned she'll be bullied?" Sarah stated plainly. "I'm concerned about integration challenges," Eleanor replied diplomatically. "However, having met Lily, I'm increasingly confident in her ability to navigate our community. She has a remarkable presence for someone so young." The conversation shifted to practical matters, uniform requirements, extracurricular expectations, the support systems in place for new students. By the time Lily returned, chattering excitedly about the fun puzzles she had solved with the teacher, Sarah sensed a decision had been made. "We would be honored to welcome Lily to Westbrook Academy," Eleanor confirmed, rising from her chair. "She can begin next Monday if that suits your schedule." Outside on the school steps, Lily could barely contain her excitement. "Did you see their library, Mom? And the science lab has real microscopes for every student." Sarah smiled, though her heart felt heavy with a mixture of pride and apprehension. "It's a wonderful opportunity, sweetheart. Do you think Mr. Reynolds would like to know I got in?" Lily asked as they walked toward the subway. "I'm sure he would," Sarah replied, pulling out her phone to check the time. "We can call him later." Instead, they found Ethan waiting beside his car across the street, trying and failing to look casual among the nannies and drivers picking up Westbrook's current students. "Mr. Reynolds," Lily called out, waving enthusiastically. Ethan crossed to meet them, his expression tentative. "I hope you don't mind. I wanted to hear the news in person. I got in." Lily announced, beaming. They have a skeleton in the biology room and everything. That's fantastic, Ethan said, genuine warmth in his voice. Congratulations, Lily. I knew you would impress them. Sarah observed their interaction with mixed emotions. Ethan's interest in Lily's future seemed sincere, yet she couldn't help feeling protective. We were just heading home to celebrate, she said. I made a reservation at Alessandro's, Ethan offered. It's not far from here. Their pasta is excellent. But of course, if you have other plans. Sarah hesitated, but Lily's hopeful expression decided the matter. That sounds lovely, thank you. At the restaurant, an elegant but welcoming Italian place, Sarah watched as Ethan patiently explained the menu to Lily and answered her endless questions about everything, from the origin of ravioli to how restaurants calculated their prices. He treated her with the same respectful attention he might give a business associate, never talking down to her or dismissing her curiosity. Will the other kids like me? Lily asked suddenly, setting down her fork. At Westbrook? The question caught both adults off guard. Ethan considered it carefully before responding. Some will like you right away, he said honestly. Others might take time. New people and new situations can be challenging for everyone. Sarah appreciated that he hadn't offered empty reassurances. The most important thing, she added, is that you stay true to yourself. Real friends will value you for who you are. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Like how you and Mr. Reynolds became friends because you saw the real him at the grocery store. Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. It's a bit different, sweetheart. Actually, Ethan said quietly, Lily has a point. You both saw me at my worst moment and showed me kindness anyway. That's rare in my world. Their eyes met briefly across the table, and Sarah felt a flicker of something unexpected, a connection beyond their arranged circumstances. She quickly looked away. How's the new job going? Ethan asked, tactfully changing the subject. It's challenging, Sarah admitted, but in a good way. Your staff has been very welcoming. They're lucky to have you, Ethan replied. Grace tells me you've already redesigned the grant application process to be more accessible to small community organizations. Sarah hadn't realized her work had been noticed at such a high level. The previous forms were intimidating, full of corporate jargon and unnecessary complexity. Exactly the fresh perspective we needed, Ethan nodded. Sometimes we get so caught up in procedures that we forget the human element. As the evening wound down, Lily's energy finally began to fade, her excitement giving way to yawns poorly hidden behind her hand. Ethan insisted on driving them home, and Sarah found herself too tired to refuse. Outside, their new apartment building, modest compared to the surrounding neighborhood, but a significant upgrade from their previous home, Ethan helped a half-asleep Lily from the car. Thank you, Sarah said quietly as they reached the building entrance. Not just for dinner, but for all of this. It's more than we ever expected. I should be thanking you, Ethan replied. Both of you have reminded me of things I'd forgotten about myself. As they parted ways, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what changes awaited them in the weeks ahead. Lily was stepping into a world of privilege and opportunity that Sarah had never known. A world Ethan navigated with ease. Would her daughter still be the same compassionate girl once surrounded by wealth and status? Would the values Sarah had worked so hard to instill withstand the pressures of this new environment? And what of Ethan himself? His transformation from arrogant executive to thoughtful mentor seemed genuine. But Sarah had learned the hard way that people's true characters often revealed themselves over time, not in grand gestures. Monday morning arrived with nervous energy. Sarah helped Lily into her new uniform, navy blazer with the Westbrook crest, pleated skirt, knee socks, and polished shoes. The girl who looked back from the mirror seemed older somehow, standing straighter in her formal attire. Ready for your first day, Dr. Simmons? Sarah asked, smoothing a rebellious strand of Lily's hair. Lily took a deep breath. Ready. Chapter 4, Transformation and Betrayal. Victor Harmon slammed the financial report onto Ethan's desk. What the hell is this? The revised budget for the Riverside development, Ethan replied calmly, not looking up from his computer. You've gutted the profit margins, Victor hissed. We had the zoning board in our pocket. We could have built twice as many units at half the required affordable housing percentage. And displaced an entire community in the process, Ethan countered, finally meeting his partner's gaze. The new plan still generates healthy returns while preserving the neighborhood's character. Since when do you care about neighborhood character? Victor demanded, pacing the office. 3 months ago, you were pushing harder than anyone to maximize density. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying the man with whom he'd built Reynolds Harmon Developments over the past 7 years. Had Victor always had this predatory gleam in his eye, or was Ethan only noticing it now? People change, Victor. People don't change, Victor scoffed. They reveal. So what's really going on? Is this about that cleaning woman and her kid? Grace told me you've been sponsoring them. Ethan tensed. My personal philanthropic choices aren't company business. They are when you start redirecting company resources, Victor shot back. First, you hire the mother into a position we didn't even need. Then you establish that ridiculous community impact assessment requirement for all new projects. Now you're slashing our margins on Riverside. It's like you've had some kind of breakdown. I've had a realignment, Ethan corrected him. Our success doesn't have to come at others' expense. Victor stared at him incredulously. Who are you? Where's the Ethan Reynolds who bought out his own cousin's shares during the 2018 downturn? The man who outmaneuvered the Chen family when their patriarch was hospitalized? Each example struck Ethan like a physical blow. Had he really been so callous? I'm still focused on success, Ethan insisted. But success can be redefined. Victor shook his head disgustedly. Well, while you're redefining success, some of us still have investors to answer to. The Kaplan Group is expecting the returns we promised, and they don't give a damn about community impact. The Kaplan Group? Ethan frowned. They weren't part of the Riverside financing. A flicker of something, wariness, crossed Victor's face before disappearing. They're considering coming in. An additional capital infusion to accelerate the timeline. Something about Victor's explanation felt off. But before Ethan could probe further, his phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Lily having trouble at school. Could use your advice if you're free. We'll continue this later, Ethan said, standing. I have an appointment. With your charity case? Victor sneered. Ethan felt a flash of anger. Be careful, Victor. Or what? Victor challenged. You'll replace me with a homeless person next? Find yourself, Ethan. This company needs the real you back. As Victor stormed out, Ethan sank back into his chair, troubled by the encounter. He and Victor had always shared the same vision, or so he'd thought. Now it seemed they'd been viewing the world through fundamentally different lenses all along. He texted Sarah back. Can meet at 3:30, coffee shop near Westbrook? An hour later, Ethan found Sarah already waiting at a table in the back of the cafe. Her expression was drawn with worry. What's happening with Lily? He asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Sarah sighed. Some of the children have been unkind. Apparently word got out that she's attending on scholarship. Has she been hurt? Ethan felt a protective surge. Not physically, Sarah clarified, but yesterday she came home in tears. A group of girls invited her to sit with them at lunch, then asked how it felt to be a charity case. Entitled Little. Ethan caught himself. Sorry, what did the school say? Her teacher is aware and sympathetic, but these things are difficult to monitor. Children are subtle in their cruelty. Ethan nodded grimly. I remember. My scholarship to Wharton wasn't quite the same situation, but I know how it feels to be the outsider. You were on scholarship? Sarah looked surprised. My parents owned a hardware store in Queens, Ethan reminded her. They were comfortable but not wealthy. I worked nights at a campus security desk to cover expenses beyond tuition. Sarah studied him. You don't talk about that part of your life much. I spent years trying to distance myself from it, Ethan admitted, as if my background was something to overcome rather than part of who I am. And now? Sarah asked. Now I'm not so sure, Ethan said quietly. About a lot of things. They sat in contemplative silence before Sarah refocused on the immediate concern. Lily's so determined not to let me withdraw her. She says the library and science labs are worth dealing with mean people. She's remarkably resilient, Ethan observed. Yes, but she's still 9, Sarah sighed. I hate seeing her hurt. What if we found her an ally at school? Ethan suggested. Someone who could help her navigate the social landscape. Like a counselor. I was thinking of someone on the faculty. Let me make a call. The next day, Rebecca Collins, Westbrook's newest science teacher, introduced herself to Lily after class. Fresh from Columbia's Teachers College and passionate about increasing diversity in STEM fields, Rebecca had been receptive to Ethan's request to keep an eye out for the new student. "I hear you're interested in medicine," Rebecca said, noting Lily's detailed cell diagram. "That's well beyond fourth grade biology." Lily glanced up cautiously. "I read a lot of books about it." "It shows," Rebecca smiled. "Would you like to see something cool? I have a special microscope in my prep room that lets you see cells actually moving." That single invitation marked the beginning of Lily's sanctuary at Westbrook. 3 days a week, she spent lunch periods in Rebecca's classroom, gradually joined by a small group of other science enthusiasts who cared more about microscopes than social hierarchies. At Reynolds Harmon Developments, a similar transformation was taking place. Ethan initiated a comprehensive review of all company practices, bringing in independent auditors to ensure compliance with not just the letter of the law, but its spirit. "This is entirely unnecessary," Victor protested during a heated executive meeting. "Our legal team already ensures compliance." "Compliance is the bare minimum," Ethan countered. "I'm interested in ethical best practices, not just avoiding lawsuits." The audit findings shocked even Ethan. While most operations ran cleanly, certain projects, primarily those Victor had directly overseen, showed troubling patterns. Questionable payments to zoning officials labeled as consulting fees, systematic underpayment of minority subcontractors, and environmental impact reports that had been manipulated to downplay potential hazards. "We need to address these immediately," Ethan announced to the executive team, deliberately making the statement public so it couldn't be ignored. "Full remediation and policy changes." Victor cornered him afterward in the hallway. "You're making a massive mistake," he warned, voice low. "Some of these arrangements are delicate. If you start unraveling threads, the whole tapestry could collapse. Then we'll rebuild it properly," Ethan replied firmly. "I've already instructed legal to prepare disclosure documents." Victor's expression hardened. "Give me 48 hours before you file anything. Some of these matters require finesse." Reluctantly, Ethan agreed, but the conversation left him deeply uneasy. That evening, he called Grace at home, something he rarely did. "I need you to pull all the financial records for Victor's projects," he instructed, "especially anything related to the Kaplan Group. And Grace, don't use the company servers. Download everything to an external drive." "You think he's hiding something specific?" Grace asked, her tone serious. "I don't know," Ethan admitted, "but I don't want to give him a chance to alter records." 2 days later, Grace placed a sealed envelope on Ethan's desk. "You should review this alone," she said quietly before leaving and closing the door behind her. Inside, Ethan found documentation of a sophisticated scheme. Victor had been operating a parallel investment structure within their development projects, creating shell companies that inserted themselves between Reynolds Harmon and various contractors, skimming millions by inflating costs and pocketing the difference. The Kaplan Group wasn't a potential investor. It was one of Victor's shell companies, named after his mother's maiden name. Ethan felt physically ill. For years he had trusted Victor implicitly, focused on his own deals while giving his partner free rein in his areas of expertise. How much of their success had been built on fraud? Before he could decide how to proceed, his office door burst open. Victor stood there, rage distorting his features. "You went behind my back," he spat, flinging printouts of emails onto Ethan's desk. "Ordering secret audits, questioning my contacts, undermining years of relationships I've cultivated." "You've been embezzling from our own company," Ethan replied, his voice deadly calm. "Creating fake vendors, phantom consultants, inflating costs. How long has this been going on, Victor?" Victor's expression shifted from rage to calculating coldness. "Everyone cuts corners, Ethan. I just found more efficient corners to cut. The only difference between us is that you've developed a convenient conscience. There's a significant difference between aggressive business tactics and criminal fraud," Ethan countered, standing to face his partner directly. "As of this moment, you're suspended from all company operations pending a full investigation." Victor laughed, a chilling, confident sound. "You can't suspend me. We have equal ownership." "The shareholder agreement includes a moral turpitude clause," Ethan reminded him, "which this clearly violates. Your word against mine, Victor shrugged. And I've made a lot of friends in this town while you've been playing savior to cleaning ladies and charity cases. I have documentation, Ethan said, indicating the folder Grace had prepared. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Victor's face. Then his expression hardened into something ugly. You push this and you'll regret it, he warned quietly. I know where all the bodies are buried, Ethan, including ones you've forgotten about. The Chen deal? The West Side rezoning? You really want all that public? It was a direct threat and both men knew it. Ethan had never authorized outright fraud, but he'd certainly closed his eyes to questionable tactics when they benefited the bottom line. We're done here, Ethan said firmly. Security will escort you out. Your access to all company systems has already been revoked. As Victor was led away by the security team, he called back over his shoulder. This isn't over. Ethan, you've made the biggest mistake of your life. That night, Ethan invited Sarah and Lily to dinner at his penthouse, partly because he needed the distraction, partly because he wanted to share the school developments. His housekeeper had prepared a simple meal, knowing from previous visits that Lily preferred pasta to the sophisticated cuisine Ethan usually favored. Ms. Collins let me culture bacteria from different surfaces in the school, Lily announced excitedly over dessert. The cafeteria tables had the most interesting colonies. Fascinating dinner conversation, Sarah teased gently. It really is, Ethan said sincerely. I wish I'd had teachers who made science so engaging when I was your age. Sarah studied him across the table. You seem tense tonight. Is everything all right? Ethan hesitated, aware of Lily's attentive presence. Just some work complications. Nothing that can't be resolved. But as he walked them to the elevator later, he murmured to Sarah, there may be some turbulence ahead. Victor and I have parted ways, not amicably. Sarah's expression grew concerned. Should we be worried? No, Ethan assured her with more confidence than he felt. But if you notice anything unusual, people asking questions about me, unexpected contacts, let me know immediately. What Ethan couldn't tell her was how deeply Victor's parting threat had unsettled him. His former partner knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage, not just to Ethan's reputation, but to everything he had begun to build with Sarah and Lily. As their elevator descended, Ethan returned to his living room and poured himself a drink. The city lights sparkled beyond his windows, the same view he'd contemplated countless times before. But tonight, instead of satisfaction at all he possessed, he felt a profound vulnerability. For the first time in years, he had something to lose that money couldn't replace. Chapter 5. Allies and Adversaries. The photo appeared on the New York Business Journal's website first. Ethan and Sarah leaving a restaurant, Lily walking slightly ahead of them. The headline read, Reynolds Mystery Woman Romance or Redemption Project. The article itself was a masterpiece of insinuation, describing Ethan's sudden interest in a single mother from Queens and speculating about whether this relationship was genuine or part of an image. Rehabilitation campaign amid whispers of financial irregularities at Reynolds Harmon Developments. Sarah discovered it when concerned colleagues began sending her links. Ethan found out through a terse text from his lawyer. Call me now. They're implying I'm sleeping my way into your company, Sarah said when they finally connected by phone, her voice tight with anger. And suggesting Lily is some kind of prop in your corporate theater. Victor, Ethan said grimly, this has his fingerprints all over it. They photographed my child, Ethan, without consent. I'm having my legal team address it immediately, Ethan assured her. They can't legally publish photos of Lily without your permission. The damage is already done, Sarah countered. The mothers at Westbrook are whispering. Lily's teacher called me because another student showed her the article on a phone. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I never meant to expose you and Lily to this kind of scrutiny. There was a long pause before Sarah responded, her voice calmer but resolute. I know this isn't what you intended, but we need to be clear about something. I won't allow Lily to become collateral damage in a corporate war. If this escalates... I understand, Ethan interrupted, a cold fear gripping him at the thought of losing them. Would it help if we issued a formal statement clarifying our relationship? And what exactly is our relationship, Ethan? Sarah challenged. The question hung between them, laden with unspoken complications. What had started as an impulsive act of philanthropy had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated, a friendship that defied conventional boundaries, with undercurrents they'd both carefully avoided examining. "You're my friend," Ethan said finally. "One of the few genuine connections in my life. And Lily, she's shown me a perspective I desperately needed." Sarah's sigh carried through the phone line. "Let's not feed the story with statements. The truth is no one's business but ours." The media frenzy was just the beginning. 3 days later, Ethan received notice that payments from his personal accounts, including Lily's tuition, had been flagged for suspicious activity and temporarily frozen. His bank apologized profusely, citing automated security protocols, but the timing was too convenient to be coincidental. Simultaneously, an anonymous tip to the state attorney's office prompted a preliminary inquiry into Reynolds Harmon's business practices, with particular focus on Ethan's projects. The company's stock dipped as rumors spread through financial circles. "He's coming at us from every angle," Grace observed grimly as she and Ethan reviewed the mounting challenges in his office. "The latest is a whisper campaign suggesting the audit you ordered was actually a cover-up." "Preemptive damage control," Ethan nodded. "Victor's spinning the narrative before we can present actual findings." "The board is getting nervous," Grace warned. "Jenkins called twice yesterday asking for reassurances." Ethan rubbed his temples. "Schedule an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. Full transparency, we lay out everything we've found, including Victor's shell companies." "And the projects you were directly involved in?" Grace asked carefully. "The ones that weren't exactly by the book." "Those too," Ethan confirmed. "I'll take my lumps where deserved." As corporate warfare escalated, Lily faced battles of her own at Westbrook. The article had transformed her from scholarship girl to the center of sophisticated gossip beyond her years. "And my mum says your mum is Mr. Reynolds' special friend," a girl named Madison commented during recess, the surrounding circle of classmates hanging on every word. "That's why you got in mid-year." Lily struggled to make sense of the insinuation. "My mum works for Mr. Reynolds' company." "He's helping me with school because he feels sorry for you," interrupted Jackson Porter, heir to a hotel fortune and the unofficial leader of Westbrook's fourth-grade hierarchy. "My father says it's called a tax write-off." The casual cruelty struck Lily silent. She felt hot tears threatening but held them back, remembering her mother's advice, "Never let them see you cry." "That's enough," came a sharp voice from behind them. Rebecca Collins approached, her expression leaving no room for argument. "Jackson Madison inside now. Everyone else, recess continues." As the chastened children dispersed, Rebecca knelt beside Lily. "People often speak from ignorance or insecurity," she said quietly. "Their words reveal more about them than about you." Lily nodded, though the hurt remained. "Why do they care so much about Mr. Reynolds helping me?" Rebecca considered her answer carefully. Adults create complicated stories when they don't understand simple kindness. Mr. Reynolds is an important person, and some people can't imagine him helping someone without getting something in return. "But he does get something," Lily said with the clarity of childhood. "He gets to be part of our family now." The simple statement touched Rebecca. That's a very wise perspective. After school, instead of heading to the regular pickup area where parents and nannies waited, Lily found Jackson Porter leaning against the wall outside her classroom. "What do you want?" she asked warily. "I'm supposed to say sorry," he muttered, scuffing his shoe against the polished floor. "Ms. Collins called my parents." "You don't sound very sorry," Lily observed. Jackson shrugged, then looked at her directly. "Is it true you want to be a doctor?" The question surprised her. "Yes, a doctor for people who can't afford care." "My mom's a doctor," Jackson said. "A surgeon. She has this really cool model of a human heart that comes apart to show all the chambers and valves." Despite herself, Lily's interest was piqued. "Really? Can you see the mitral valve?" "The what?" "It's the valve between the left atrium and ventricle," Lily explained automatically. "It's really important." Jackson stared at her with newfound curiosity. "You really do know medical stuff. I thought that was just a story. Why would anyone make that up?" Lily asked, genuinely puzzled. A moment of understanding passed between them, the recognition that perhaps they had both misjudged the other based on assumptions and hearsay. Do you want to see my science project? Lily offered hesitantly. Ms. Collins is helping me culture different bacteria from around the school. Is that why you were swabbing the water fountains? Jackson asked. I thought you were being weird. I am weird, Lily admitted with a small smile, but it's a cool kind of weird. It was the beginning of an unlikely alliance. Within days, Jackson, who struggled with science but whose social capital at Westbrook was unmatched, began including Lily in lunch table invitations and playground games. His acceptance effectively neutralized the worst of the ostracism, creating a buffer zone of social protection. Meanwhile, Ethan's emergency board meeting had yielded mixed results. While the directors expressed shock at Victor's fraudulent schemes, they also questioned Ethan's judgment in conducting a private investigation rather than involving them from the start. The optics are concerning, said Jenkins, the most senior board member. First the abrupt pivot on Riverside, then this very public fallout with Victor. The market doesn't like uncertainty, Ethan. I'm not managing for quarterly optics, Ethan replied firmly. I'm trying to build a company we can all be proud of, one that succeeds through innovation and integrity, not shortcuts and exploitation. Noble sentiments, Jenkins nodded. But our fiduciary duty is to shareholders. Ethical business is good business, Ethan countered. Would you rather I'd ignored the fraud and let it blow up later, potentially taking the whole company down? The meeting ended with cautious support for Ethan's continued leadership, contingent on a full external audit and the implementation of stronger governance controls, effectively diluting his autonomy while preserving his title. As he left the boardroom, Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca Collins. Lily made a breakthrough today. Would like to discuss in person when convenient. The message was a welcome diversion from corporate politics. Ethan arranged to meet Rebecca that afternoon at a cafe near Westbrook, grateful for any positive news. She's forming genuine friendships, Rebecca reported, warming her hands around a mug of tea, particularly with Jackson Porter, which is significant given his influence among the students. Porter, Ethan's brow furrowed. Related to Alexander Porter of Porter Hospitality Group, Rebecca nodded. His son, not an easy child but intelligent in his way, he and Lily connected over her science project of all things. That's wonderful, Ethan said, feeling a weight lift slightly. Sarah's been so concerned about her social adjustment. There's more, Rebecca continued. Lily's project on bacterial cultures has evolved into something quite sophisticated. I've suggested she develop it for the school's science fair next month. She hasn't mentioned this, Ethan noted, surprised. She wants it to be a surprise, Rebecca explained. She's combining the microbiology with a social component, examining how access to hygiene affects bacterial spread in different communities. It's remarkably insightful for her age. Pride swelled in Ethan's chest, an emotion he was still getting accustomed to feeling for someone else's achievements. How can I help without giving away that I know? She needs some specialized materials, Rebecca said. Nothing extraordinary, but beyond what the school typically provides. Consider it done, Ethan promised. And Rebecca, thank you for looking out for her. She's a special child, Rebecca said simply, and between us, she's making me a better teacher. As Ethan left the cafe, his phone rang with a call from his lawyer. The state attorney's office is expanding their inquiry, the lawyer reported without preamble. They've requested documents going back 5 years, including all communications between you and Victor regarding the West Side project. Ethan's stomach tightened. The West Side development had been particularly aggressive in its approach to acquiring properties and securing zoning changes. While he'd never authorized anything explicitly illegal, he'd certainly been willing to operate in gray areas. Give them everything they ask for, Ethan instructed. Complete cooperation. There's more, the lawyer continued. A reporter from the Business Chronicle has been asking questions about Sarah Simmons, specifically about how she obtained her position at Reynolds Enterprises and the timing of her daughter's acceptance at Westbrook. The implication was clear. Victor was now targeting Sarah and Lily directly, suggesting impropriety in Ethan's support. I want a cease and desist letter sent to every publication in the city, Ethan said, anger rising. Any suggestion of improper relationships or questioning of Lily's academic qualifications will be met with immediate legal action. Understood, the lawyer replied. But Ethan, the best defense here might be transparency. An exclusive interview explaining your relationship with the Simmons family could get ahead of the narrative Victor's pushing. Ethan hesitated. Let me talk to Sarah first. This affects her more than me. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Sarah and Ethan sat in her modest living room. Voices kept low as they discussed their options. So it's either hide and let speculation run wild, or put ourselves out there and control the narrative, Sarah summarized, tucking her legs beneath her on the couch. Essentially, Ethan nodded, but whatever we decide, we do together. I won't have you and Lily exposed without your full consent. Sarah studied him in the soft lamplight. Why are you really doing all this, Ethan? The tuition, the job, fighting so hard to protect us now. Sometimes I still wonder if I'm missing something. The question deserved complete honesty. At first it was gratitude and perhaps a bit of ego, the satisfaction of being the benefactor. But now, he paused, searching for words, you and Lily have become essential to me. You've reminded me of the person I wanted to be before success started defining me, instead of the other way around. And if protecting us damages your company, your reputation, then it does, Ethan said simply. Some things matter more. The vulnerability in his expression moved Sarah. Slowly, she reached out and took his hand, the first time she had initiated such contact between them. I'll do the interview with you, she decided. We have nothing to hide or be ashamed of, but Lily stays completely out of it. No photographs, no details about her school or achievements. Ethan nodded, acutely aware of her hand in his. Agreed, I'll have my PR team arrange something with a reporter we trust. As he left her apartment that night, Ethan felt both apprehension and resolve. Victor's campaign against him was escalating beyond business into personal territory, but he'd found something worth defending that had nothing to do with market share or profit margins. For the first time in his adult life, Ethan Reynolds was fighting for something more valuable than money. Chapter 6. The Science Fair. The interview with the New York Observer, a respected publication known for its thoughtful, in-depth profiles, appeared 3 weeks after Victor's media campaign began. The headline was simple but effective: Beyond Charity, How a Chance Encounter Transformed a Business Titan. The article detailed Ethan and Sarah's first meeting at Bellamy's, her new role developing community initiatives at Reynolds Enterprises, and Ethan's evolving business philosophy. The journalist Caroline Winters portrayed their relationship as a genuine friendship that had catalyzed Ethan's corporate reformation. Most importantly, she explicitly addressed and dismissed the rumors of romantic involvement, quoting Sarah directly. Ethan's support comes from recognizing potential and wanting to foster it. Suggesting ulterior motives says more about our cynical culture than about him. The piece was accompanied by a single, dignified photograph of Ethan and Sarah in the Reynolds Enterprises lobby, both dressed professionally and standing a respectful distance apart. As agreed, Lily wasn't mentioned beyond a brief reference to Ms. Simmons' daughter. You two look like business partners plotting world domination, Grace commented, dropping the newspaper on Ethan's desk the morning it was published. That was the goal, Ethan replied, scanning the article again to ensure nothing had been misconstrued. It's good, Grace assured him. Thoughtful, measured, makes Victor's innuendos look like tabloid garbage. Has he responded yet? Nothing direct, but his lawyer issued a statement claiming he's focused on clearing his name rather than engaging in media spectacles. Ethan snorted. Rich coming from the man who orchestrated this circus. The state attorney's office called, Grace continued, her expression growing serious. They want to schedule your deposition for next Tuesday. Ethan nodded, having expected this development. Set it up. And tell legal I want complete disclosure. No strategic omissions or executive privilege claims. You're sure about that? Grace asked carefully. Some of the West Side documentation could be problematic if presented without context. I'm done with half measures, Grace, Ethan said firmly. The only way forward is absolute transparency, whatever the consequences. As the corporate drama continued to unfold, Westbrook Academy was consumed with preparations for its annual science fair, an elaborate affair that attracted attention from prestigious high schools, and even college recruiters looking to identify promising STEM talent early. For the past month, Lily had transformed her bedroom into a makeshift laboratory. Culture plates lined her bookshelf, carefully labeled with collection locations and dates. The walls were covered with charts tracking bacterial growth rates and comparison tables. Sarah had designated the kitchen table as a clean zone each evening, where Lily meticulously documented her findings in a research journal Rebecca had helped her structure. "Mom, can you take me to the Hamilton Heights Community Center on Saturday?" Lily asked over breakfast, barely looking up from her notebook. "I need environmental samples from their public restrooms for my control group." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Most kids your age want to go to the mall on weekends." "The mall has terrible bacterial diversity," Lily replied seriously, then caught her mother's amused expression. "Oh, you're joking." "Only partly," Sarah smiled. "I'm thrilled about your project, but I sometimes worry you're missing out on just being a kid." Lily considered this. "Jackson invited me to his birthday party next week. It's at Chelsea Piers. They're doing rock climbing and stuff. That's kid things, right?" Sarah's heart warmed at this evidence of social progress. "Definitely kid things. And yes, we can go to Hamilton Heights on Saturday." Lily beamed. "Perfect. Their bathrooms haven't been renovated since 1986, according to their website. The microbial ecosystem should be fascinating." Sarah laughed, marveling at how her daughter could make even public restrooms sound like an adventure. The science fair fell on a crisp Saturday in early May. Westbrook's gymnasium had been transformed into a showcase of student innovation, with projects ranging from simple plant growth experiments to sophisticated engineering designs. Parents and faculty circulated through the displays, appropriately impressed by the children's efforts. Lily's exhibit stood out for its methodical approach and social consciousness. Titled "Hygiene Inequality: A Microbial Perspective," her display featured side-by-side comparisons of bacterial cultures from public facilities in wealthy versus low-income neighborhoods, accompanied by statistics on maintenance budgets and public health outcomes. She collected over 60 samples, Rebecca explained proudly to the judges as they approached Lily's table, and developed her own modified scoring system to quantify contamination levels. Lily, dressed in a makeshift lab coat fashioned from one of Sarah's old shirts, stood tall as she guided the judges through her methodology. Her voice, initially tremulous, gained confidence as she delved into the subject matter she had researched so thoroughly. The average bacterial colony count in affluent neighborhood facilities was 73% lower than in underfunded communities, she explained, pointing to her carefully constructed graphs. But the most concerning finding was the presence of potential pathogens here and here, in locations primarily used by children. From the edge of the crowd, Sarah watched with a mixture of pride and astonishment. When had her little girl become this poised young scientist? Beside her, Ethan stood quietly, equally transfixed by Lily's presentation. "She's remarkable," he murmured. "Absolutely remarkable." Sarah nodded, emotion tightening her throat. "I sometimes forget she's only 9. Dr. Porter, look." Lily suddenly called out, waving to a distinguished woman who had just entered the gymnasium. "I used the sampling technique you showed me." Catherine Porter, Jackson's mother and a renowned surgeon, made her way through the crowd toward Lily's exhibit. Sarah tensed slightly, still unaccustomed to interactions with Westbrook's elite parent circle. "Lily Simmons," Dr. Porter said warmly, examining the display. "Jackson hasn't stopped talking about your project. Now I see why. This is graduate-level thinking." "Really?" Lily's eyes widened at the validation from a real doctor. "Absolutely," Dr. Porter confirmed. "Your methodology is sound, and you've identified a genuine public health concern." She turned to Sarah and Ethan. "You must be Lily's parents. You've raised a scientist." "I'm Lily's mother, Sarah Simmons," Sarah clarified quickly. "And this is Ethan Reynolds, a family friend." Recognition flickered in Dr. Porter's eyes. Clearly she had read the Observer article, but her professional demeanor never wavered. "Catherine Porter, pleasure to meet you both. Your daughter and my son have formed quite the intellectual partnership." As if summoned by mention of his name, Jackson appeared at his mother's side, clutching a model rocket. "Lily, the judges are coming back. I think you might win." The children hurried off together, leaving the adults in a moment of slightly awkward silence. I should circulate, Dr. Porter said after a beat. But perhaps we could arrange a playdate soon. Jackson would love to have Lily over to see his father's telescope. Apparently, she's interested in the medical applications of space technology. The casual invitation, a clear social acceptance into Westbrook's parental ecosystem, caught Sarah by surprise. That would be lovely, she managed. As Dr. Porter departed, Sarah turned to Ethan with wide eyes. Did that just happen? The Catherine Porter, chief of cardiothoracic surgery at New York Presbyterian, just invited Lily for a playdate. So apparently brilliant children are the great equalizer, Ethan smiled. Though I suspect your daughter would impress regardless of social barriers. The award ceremony validated Dr. Porter's prediction. Lily's project won not only first place in her age division, but also the Special Judges Innovation Award, typically reserved for middle school students. As she accepted the acrylic trophy, her face flushed with triumph, she sought out Sarah and Ethan in the audience, her smile brighter than the gymnasium lights. Later that evening, as they celebrated with dinner at Lily's favorite pizzeria, the girl could barely contain her excitement. Ms. Collins says they might feature my project in the school newsletter, she bubbled, her trophy placed carefully beside her plate. And Dr. Porter asked if I'd like to observe a real laboratory at the hospital someday. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Sarah said, though a flicker of concern crossed her face. Just remember, there's no rush. You have plenty of time to become Dr. Simmons. I know, Lily nodded earnestly, but isn't it cool that people are taking me seriously? Very cool, Ethan agreed, raising his soda in a toast. To the future Dr. Simmons, already changing the world one petri dish at a time. Lily giggled and clinked her glass against his, then turned to her mother. Mom, you're changing things too. Mr. Reynolds told me about the new program you started at his company, the one helping small businesses in Queens get loans. Sarah glanced at Ethan, surprised. You told her about the Neighborhood Enterprise Initiative. I might have mentioned it, Ethan admitted. I was impressed by how quickly you identified the gap in our community outreach. It just made sense, Sarah shrugged modestly. Small businesses are the backbone of neighborhoods, like the one where Lily and I used to live. They need capital, not charity. Exactly, Ethan nodded, which is why the board approved your proposal for a $10 million allocation to the program. Sarah nearly choked on her water. What, when? Yesterday's meeting, Ethan smiled. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you. The initiative will be officially announced next week, with you as its director. Director? Sarah echoed, stunned. But I've only been with the company for a few months, and in that time you've demonstrated more understanding of community needs than consultants we've paid millions, Ethan replied. The board was particularly impressed with your metrics for measuring social impact alongside financial returns. Sarah sat back, processing the news. From cleaning corporate offices to directing a multi-million-dollar initiative in less than 6 months, the trajectory was dizzying. We're both getting promoted, Lily declared, raising her glass again. This is the best day ever. Their celebratory mood carried them through the evening and the taxi ride home. As they approached their apartment building, however, Ethan's phone rang with a call he couldn't ignore, his lawyer, with an update on the state attorney's investigation. I need to take this, he apologized, stepping away as Sarah and Lily headed inside. 10 minutes later, he joined them in their apartment, his expression grave. What's wrong? Sarah asked once Lily had gone to her room to find the perfect shelf for her trophy. The investigation has expanded, Ethan explained quietly. They're looking into the Westbrook Academy admissions process, specifically how Lily was accepted mid-year. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. They think you bribed the school? Victor's doing, Ethan confirmed grimly. He suggested to investigators that my donation to Westbrook's science wing was quid pro quo for Lily's admission. But that's absurd, Sarah protested. Lily tested at the top percentile. She earned her place. I know that, Ethan assured her, and we can prove it with her academic records. But the investigation itself could be traumatic for her. Sarah's eyes flashed with protective fury. If they upset my daughter with this witch hunt? I won't let it come to that, Ethan promised. I've already instructed my legal team to provide all donation records and correspondence with Westbrook. Total transparency. The truth is our best defense. And what about your deposition on Tuesday? "I'll answer everything truthfully," Ethan said, "including my motivation for helping you and Lily. There's nothing shameful or illegal in wanting to support a brilliant child's education." Sarah studied him, conflict evident in her expression. "Sometimes I wonder if we would all be better off if you'd never seen us in that grocery store." The statement hit Ethan like a physical blow. "Do you really feel that way?" Sarah sighed, relenting slightly. "No, but I never wanted Lily caught in the crossfire of adult conflicts." "Neither did I," Ethan said softly. "If you want me to step back, create some distance until this blows over, I understand." The possibility hung in the air between them, painful but practical. Before Sarah could respond, Lily bounded back into the room, clutching a framed photograph. "Look what I found!" she exclaimed. "It's from my first day at Westbrook. I want to put it next to my trophy." The photograph showed Lily in her new uniform, flanked by Sarah and Ethan, all three smiling with a mixture of nervousness and excitement at the beginning of their shared journey. "We look like a family," Lily observed innocently. Sarah and Ethan exchanged glances, the simple statement cutting through their adult complications. Whatever their relationship was, friendship, partnership, or something still undefined, it had become meaningful to all three of them. "A pretty good one, I think," Ethan replied carefully, looking to Sarah for confirmation. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "Yes," she agreed softly, "a pretty good one." Later, after Ethan had left and Lily was asleep, Sarah sat alone in the living room, contemplating how completely her life had transformed in a few short months. The apartment, the job, Lily's school, all stemmed from that chance encounter at Bellamy's. But it was more than material changes. Something fundamental had shifted in her understanding of possibility, of trust, of connection. She picked up the photograph Lily had found, studying the three faces looking back at her. They didn't look like Charity and Benefactor. They looked like people who had found in each other something essential and affirming. Whatever challenges Victor Harmon might throw their way, that connection felt worth defending. Sarah placed the photograph next to Lily's trophy and went to bed, resolved that tomorrow, when the state attorney's office inevitably called, she would tell them exactly that. Chapter 7. Full Circle. 8 years later, Lily Simmons adjusted her graduation cap one last time, peering into the mirror of Westbrook Academy's senior lounge. At 17, she had blossomed into a poised young woman, retaining the thoughtful intensity of her childhood while developing a quiet confidence all her own. "There you are," Sarah said, appearing in the doorway. "Everyone's looking for you. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. "Just a moment of quiet," Lily explained, turning to face her mother. "It's all a bit overwhelming." Sarah crossed the room and took her daughter's hands, emotion evident in her eyes. "Valedictorian, full scholarship to Johns Hopkins Pre-Med, and that incredible speech you've prepared. I couldn't be prouder." Lily squeezed her mother's hands. "I was thinking about that day at Bellamy's. How different would our lives be if we hadn't been in that checkout line?" "I've wondered that myself," Sarah admitted. "But I've learned that life has a way of bringing the right people together, one way or another." A knock at the door interrupted their moment. Ethan stood there, distinguished in a tailored suit, his once dark hair now threaded with dignified silver at the temples. "Sorry to intrude," he said, "but Jackson and Rebecca are saving seats and there's a bit of a crowd forming." Lily hurried over to embrace him. "You made it! I thought your meeting in Chicago might run long. And miss your graduation." "Not a chance," Ethan assured her. "I had the jet on standby." "Such a show-off," Sarah teased, though her smile was warm as she accepted the brief kiss Ethan placed on her cheek. The years had transformed their relationship gradually, almost imperceptibly. From cautious allies to trusted friends, to eventual partners, their evolution had unfolded naturally without pressure or expectation. 2 years earlier, after much consultation with Lily, Ethan had moved into their Upper West Side apartment, a home far more modest than his former penthouse, but infinitely more welcoming. "Dr. Porter sent these for you," Ethan said, presenting Lily with a small box. "A graduation gift." Inside lay a pair of sterling silver earrings shaped like caduceus symbols, the traditional emblem of medicine. A note in elegant handwriting read, For the future physician who will make us all proud. The first step of many. Catherine Porter, MD. That's incredibly thoughtful, Sarah remarked. Especially considering she's presenting at that conference in Boston today. She and Jackson are flying back tonight for the party, Lily explained, carefully putting on the earrings. He's bringing Ella too. Ethan smiled knowingly. Jackson Porter and Lily had navigated the transition from childhood friends to teenage sweethearts with surprising maturity, supporting each other's ambitions while maintaining their individual paths. Jackson was headed to NYU for architectural engineering, while Lily had chosen Johns Hopkins for its renowned medical program. Speaking of the party, Ethan said, everything's set at the venue. Grace has been there since morning, supervising the final details. Grace Mitchell, now Chief Operations Officer of Reynolds Community Development, the reformed and renamed company that had emerged from the ashes of Reynolds Harmon, had become an extended family member over the years, her efficient presence a constant in their evolving lives. As they made their way toward the auditorium, they passed a wall of framed photographs commemorating Westbrook's history. Ethan paused at a large image from 4 years earlier. Lily at 13, accepting a National Youth Science Award for her expanded research on public health disparities. That project changed school policy, he noted with pride. Westbrook now requires all students to complete community service in underserved neighborhoods. That was more Rebecca's doing than mine, Lily said modestly. She turned my research into actual curriculum. Rebecca Collins, now Westbrook's science department chair, had remained Lily's mentor throughout her academic journey, eventually becoming Sarah's close friend as well. Her innovative approach to science education had transformed Westbrook's STEM program into one of the most progressive in the country. The ceremony itself was everything a prestigious private school graduation should be. Elegant, traditional, and meticulously organized. When Lily rose to deliver her valedictory address, the audience fell respectfully silent. 8 years ago, she began, her voice clear and confident, I offered my savings to a stranger in a grocery store. It was a simple gesture, one that seemed insignificant at the time, but that moment changed the trajectory of not just my life, but many lives around me. From her seat in the front row, Sarah felt tears welling. Beside her, Ethan reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. We're often told that success comes from grand ambitions and bold strategies, Lily continued, but my experience suggests something different. That transformation begins with small moments of genuine connection. A helping hand extended without expectation, a kind word offered without agenda. Her gaze found Sarah and Ethan in the audience, her smile deepening. I've been fortunate to learn this lesson from extraordinary role models. My mother, who taught me that dignity and determination can overcome any obstacle, and Ethan Reynolds, who showed me that it's never too late to realign your compass toward what truly matters. As Lily's speech concluded to enthusiastic applause, Ethan leaned close to Sarah. She's extraordinary, he whispered. And entirely your doing. Our doing, Sarah corrected gently. These past 8 years, she's needed both of us. The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur of emotions. Diplomas awarded, tassels turned, caps tossed skyward in celebration. Afterward, amid the chaos of photographs and congratulations, Rebecca Collins approached with news. Lily's community health curriculum has been approved for implementation in 5 public school districts, she announced excitedly. The Board of Education voted unanimously this morning. That's incredible, Sarah exclaimed. She's been working on that proposal for over a year. They were particularly impressed by the partnership component, pairing medical students with underserved schools for regular health education sessions, Rebecca explained. It's innovative yet practical. Always thinking beyond herself, Ethan noted proudly, watching as Lily chatted animatedly with classmates across the lawn. Just like her mother. As the crowd gradually dispersed, they made their way toward the car that would take them to the celebration venue, a community center in Lily's old Queens neighborhood that she had insisted on for her graduation party, rather than the upscale Manhattan locations her classmates had chosen. There's something I need to tell you both, Lily said once they were settled in the back seat. I've made a decision about the trust fund. The educational trust Ethan had established for Lily had grown substantially over the years, expanded to cover not just her education, but also to provide her with capital for her future endeavors. With my scholarships covering tuition, the trust has more than enough for medical school and beyond, Lily continued. I want to use part of it to establish a clinic in Queens, one that offers care on a sliding scale based on income. Sarah and Ethan exchanged glances, unsurprised yet impressed by her ambition. That's a significant undertaking alongside medical school, Sarah observed. I know, Lily nodded. That's why I want to start small. Maybe just weekend hours at first. Partnering with established doctors willing to donate time. Dr. Porter has already offered to help structure it. It's your trust, Ethan said thoughtfully. But perhaps consider establishing a foundation instead, something that can grow and attract additional funding beyond the initial investment. That's exactly what I was thinking, Lily replied eagerly. A foundation focused on accessible healthcare in underserved communities. I even have a name in mind, the Small Gestures Foundation. The name resonated immediately, calling back to where their journey began. Perfect, Sarah said softly. The car slowed as they approached a familiar corner in Queens. Can we stop here for a moment? Lily requested suddenly. They pulled over beside a modest storefront with a freshly painted sign, Simmons Community Pharmacy. I wanted to see it again today, Lily explained as they gazed at the small business, the first recipient of Sarah's neighborhood enterprise. Initiative years earlier, now a thriving establishment serving the local community. Full circle, Ethan murmured, remembering how the once struggling pharmacist had approached Sarah's program with little more than determination and a vision for serving his neighborhood. That's what today feels like, Lily agreed. Like we've completed one circle and are beginning another. As they continued toward the community center, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them to this milestone. The state attorney's investigation had eventually cleared Ethan of wrongdoing, though it had cost him significantly in legal fees and temporary market value. Victor Harmon had faced charges for financial fraud, ultimately accepting a plea deal that included restitution and a ban from securities trading. Reynolds Community Development had emerged from the crisis, smaller but more purposeful, focusing exclusively on projects that balanced profit with genuine community benefit. Sarah's Neighborhood Enterprise Initiative had become its flagship program, expanding to 5 cities and receiving national recognition for its innovative approach to urban economic development. The community center was alive with activity when they arrived. Not just Westbrook classmates and faculty, but neighbors from Queens, colleagues from Reynolds Community Development, and families who had benefited from Sarah's programs over the years. It was a testament to the bridges they had built across New York's social and economic divides. As Lily was swept into the celebration by friends, Sarah and Ethan found a quiet moment together on the center's small terrace. Remember when you asked me why I was really helping you and Lily? Ethan said, gazing out at the Queens neighborhood where their story had begun. I questioned your motives regularly in those early days, Sarah admitted with a smile. I didn't have the words then to explain it properly, Ethan continued. But watching Lily today, I think I finally understand. That moment in Bellamy's wasn't just about her offering. In a luxury market, a confident millionaire tries to impress until his cards are declined in front of everyone. As the gazes turn into judgments, a humble girl steps out of the line and offers her only coins. The silent yet powerful gesture breaks the man's pride and brings forth tears he never thought he would shed. From that moment on, a journey of change begins, one that no amount of money could ever buy. Chapter 1: The Encounter. Ethan Reynolds adjusted his Rolex watch as he entered Bellamy's, the most exclusive grocery store in Manhattan's Upper East Side. At 35, he had everything society valued: a penthouse overlooking Central Park, a portfolio of successful business ventures, and the admiration of New York's elite. Today, he was escorting Vanessa, his new girlfriend, a model 15 years his junior, on what he considered a simple yet effective display of his status. Choose anything you like, Ethan said, guiding Vanessa through aisles of imported delicacies with the practiced confidence of someone who had never heard the word budget. The 1982 Bordeaux would pair wonderfully with that camembert. Vanessa's eyes widened with each item he casually tossed into their cart. Truffles from Italy, saffron from Spain, Caviar from the Caspian Sea. Ethan smiled at her reaction. It was precisely what he had orchestrated. He had mastered the art of impressing women, just as he had mastered the market fluctuations that built his fortune. "You have exquisite taste," the store manager commented, appearing at Ethan's elbow with deference typically reserved for celebrities. "We just received a shipment of limited edition chocolate from an obscure Swiss chocolatier. Only 5 boxes made it to the United States." "We'll take 2, Ethan replied without hesitation, savoring the impressed glances from nearby shoppers. In truth, he hardly cared for chocolate, but the exclusivity was irresistible. As they approached the checkout, their cart resembled a small treasury of gourmet excess. The cashier, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, began scanning each item with practiced efficiency. Ethan pulled out his platinum card with a flourish that had become second nature. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds, but your card has been declined," the cashier said quietly after the terminal beeped disapprovingly. Ethan blinked, certain he had misheard. "That's impossible. Try again." The cashier obliged, but the result remained unchanged. "Perhaps another card?" Ethan's confident smile faltered as he produced his second card, then his third. Each attempt ended with the same humiliating beep. The line behind him grew, and so did the whispers. He felt heat rise to his face, not from embarrassment but from indignation. How dare his financial institution create such a scene? "There must be some mistake," he insisted, voice rising. "I'll have someone's job for this. Call your manager." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably beside him, her gaze now fixed on her designer shoes. The murmurs behind them transformed into poorly concealed chuckles. A woman in line commented loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Guess some people's lifestyles are just smoke and mirrors." The manager approached, his earlier deference replaced by cautious professionalism. "Perhaps we can set these items aside while you contact your bank, Mr. Reynolds." Ethan felt his carefully constructed image crumbling. The store, his stage just moments ago, had become his scaffold. He was about to demand the manager's name when a small voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me." The crowd parted slightly to reveal a girl, no more than 9 years old, standing beside a woman in a cleaner's uniform who was clearly her mother. The girl approached Ethan with a composure that belied her age. "I think you might need this more than I do right now," she said, extending a small hand that contained a collection of coins and crumpled dollar bills, clearly savings accumulated over time. "It's okay. Everyone needs help sometimes." The sincerity in her voice silenced the entire checkout area. There was no pity in her offer, only genuine kindness, something Ethan encountered so rarely that he hardly recognized it. The girl's mother looked mortified. "Lily, honey, please come back here," she whispered urgently. "I'm so sorry, sir. She doesn't understand—" "No, it's fine," Ethan interrupted, finding his voice strange in his ears. He knelt to the girl's level, suddenly aware of how small she was, how innocent her gesture. "What's your name?" "Lily Simmons," she replied without hesitation. "Well, Lily Simmons, that's the kindest offer anyone has made me in a very long time," he said, surprised by his own honesty. "But I couldn't take your money." "You've worked hard for it, haven't you?" Lily nodded solemnly. "I've been saving for 6 months, but my mom always says that helping others is more important than things." Ethan glanced up at the mother, who stood with quiet dignity,